channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at your newspaper front pages this morning. The Mirror leading on the story of those 4 children who were left fighting for their lives. We understand cardiac arrests for them after falling into an icy lake in Solihull over the weekend.
And the Daily Express is also leading with lake horror as 2 more children are still feared missing after temperatures plummeted to minus 12 degrees.
Here's the Times reporting on the upcoming NHS strike, suggesting drafting in troops to help alleviate shortages won't actually help to prevent any chaos.
And the Telegraph focuses on the impending rail strikes and how they could force families to hold a virtual Christmas for the 3rd year in a row.
Well, it's time to go through the papers. We are joined this morning by former advisor to the Conservative Party, Claire Pearsall, and Olympian Chris Akabusi. Good morning to you both.
Morning, guys.
Morning. Look, should we start with the story that we were just referring to in the front pages there, Chris, on the front of the Mail? This horror on the frozen lake, and we understand, we haven't had it confirmed by the authorities, but we understand this is primary school-age children involved in this.
Yeah, I mean, it's the world's worst nightmare, really. I think when you're thinking you're living in the society that we are, kids will play. And it's very difficult to inform them about the dangers that are on the lake. And I'm just trying to imagine, you know, if you were there, and apparently a couple of the children that have got themselves in trouble were trying to help some young people that were in trouble. And I know this automatic response when you do not know how you're going to act and react in such a scenario. You know, I've been something similar, and then all of a sudden you are just full on helping somebody else.
Been in a frozen...
I was in a situation where someone was someone's car and they were pleading for help, and they jumped in my car, and I did this mad chase in my car through the woods, and you know, I wasn't even thinking about my safety or anyone's safety. I was trying to help this guy. So. And nothing can prepare you for that. So what I'm trying to say is that there are these 2 young kids, and some adults are trying to help those 2 young kids who automatically reacted to this scenario. And now so many of them are at death's door. I don't even can say that. It's just awful. There's cardiac arrest. They're in hospital. We don't know what's going to happen to them later on. It's just such a horror scenario. And you think... You know, in my day, children were encouraged to go out and play. I know in today's world, you know, we've been a lot more mollycoddling with children. First bit of snow, first bit of ice, these young children have gone out and they've gone ice skating. Yeah. They've gone playing on the ice, and it's just so dangerous. And this is a warning for all of us again. Please teach your children about the dangers of the ice.
Well, also it puts the emergency services in danger as well. And look, there's an ongoing search and, well, it's no longer a search and rescue, we're told, for 2 more children in that lake. It's a search and recovery. But the guys that have been doing that through the night in up to minus 12 conditions, we're told, overnight in some places, one of the officers is being treated for hypothermia, trying to help and assist in the situation. So listen, our hearts go out to all involved, especially the family of those 2 children who have yet to be retrieved. Absolutely nightmare, tragic situation.
So Claire, you're turning to the Times, and you're also talking about white knuckle ride chills and spills as the UK musters the white stuff.
I mean, moving on from the horrific headlines in Solihull, you do see some absolutely beautiful photographs when it comes to snow in the UK. We're not used to it, we don't get it very often, but it does look absolutely stunning. And there are some really amazing photographs coming out here. Robins and Father Christmases and snowmen, and it's so much more festive. But unfortunately, the downside of it is that people don't understand how to use the roads, therefore cars are getting stuck, cars aren't ready for these conditions on the road, and people don't know how to drive. No longer are people taught how to drive in these conditions, and that leads to enormous accidents. And we've seen it in Kent overnight, around Bluebell Hill in the Medway area and on the M20, and you've got cars being stuck for hours on end. People don't have the supplies in their cars, and I think that, again, as Chris has just said, a little bit of re-education as to what this weather actually means and how dangerous it can be. If you are stuck in a car, you don't have a blanket, you don't have a snow shovel, you have no backup for your phone battery and things like that, you are going to be in serious trouble.
Yeah. I mean,
we cannot just rely on the emergency services. We need to actually start taking a little bit of responsibility for ourselves.
Or they can't even get to you in an ambulance in a situation like that, Chris.
I've got to say, I've just come down the M1, A5, M1 to get into town, and they've done brilliant up there. And so Buckinghamshire, Bedfordshire, they've done brilliant. I wasn't expecting it. I've always put a blanket in my car because I'm an ex-soldier. I've got a blanket in my car. I've always got some food supplies in the car. But I came out in thick snow in Bedfordshire. But as soon as I got off these sort of side roads, the A5 was tremendous. You could see the work that they've done. However, what you said, Claire, is so true. Although the authorities have done the work, you still had people gassing down the fast lane, and going past me. I mean, I was doing 70 miles an hour in a second lane, and people were flying past, and I was praying, please don't have an accident, because they were doing stupid things.
Yeah.
And my thought was, I was praying because I know that some father, some mother has left home today and are not going to make it back home tonight. Because they were just being stupid.
What do you do when you skid in the snow? Do you turn into the skid? Is that the advice? I was reported for many years, and I had to drive all over the southwest of England. I was always in floodwater and snow and all crazy.
Yeah.
Whenever the weather was bad, you got sent there.
Yeah.
And I seem to remember that the advice was to turn into the skid, which is just against every instinct.
What you don't do is put your foot on the brake.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you jackknife.
Yeah, because that's it. Then you spin. Then your tail spin and you're trouble. So yeah, you do try and steer into the way you're coming, but you take your foot off the gas and allow the car to naturally decelerate. But of course, that's easier said than done when you've got an articulated lorry come on the inside, and it's natural panic just trying to pull away from the area. So the most important thing is stop speeding, guys. Just be sensible, because you've got other people who are on the road who are looking at you and they're praying for you and for the havoc that you're going to cause to everybody else. I don't want to see that in the road.
Yeah, amen to that.
Fair play. Claire, moving on if we could, a story of real interest to me as a former MEP, Qatari corruption. Impregnating Brussels. Who would have thought? Tell us about these people who seem to be on the take.
Well, colour me surprised on this one. There is potential corruption in the European Parliament and involving the Qatari government as well. And you look at this, and the European Parliament has... two MEPs have been detained over 600,000 euros in cash. Italians, allegedly. Let's put this into context. So a Belgian judge has charged 4 unnamed people with participation in a criminal organisation, money laundering and corruption.
Suitcases of money, they were saying. Great big whopping bags of cash. What were they trying to buy?
Well, I mean, it looks like they're trying to buy some goodwill.
Yeah, some influence.
Some power. One of the family members of the former Italian MEP had been offered a holiday worth 100,000 euros by the Qataris.
100 grand.
I mean, that is some holiday.
Yeah.
It just begs the question, why was this not picked up sooner? Where are the checks and balances within the European Parliament that would stop this happening?
And what was going on, as I understand it, is that they were trying to fast-track a vote on allowing Qatari citizens access to the 27 member states because of the World Cup, the furthering of soft power. They were trying to buy access for Qataris to the EU via great big loads of cash. This is a huge corruption scandal.
It is, and you do wonder what's going to come of it. And I know that 4 people have been arrested at the centre of this, but is anybody actually going to be charged? And where are the processes that stop this going forward? Because if this happened in this country, quite rightly, people would be in prison, but it wouldn't happen. But to have this level of cash floating around from the Qataris into the European government, I think is really, really concerning. And it's something that I think we'll see more of. I don't think these are going to be the only isolated cases either.
I think you're right. Yep.
Well,
go on.
Well, no, I mean, you'd like to think it wouldn't happen in this country, but I think just as a normal citizen, you've seen the sports washing with the World Cup. You see this amount of money being offered, and you do begin to wonder, are we incorruptible in the United Kingdom? Is this an isolated case on the southern areas of Europe, or is this something that the Qataris and people with loads and loads of oil money have got used to that we are available at the right price. You know, you look at some of our institutions in retail, in business, you look at our property infrastructure within the UK, there's many challenges around oligarchs, you know, buying up swathes of London. So you do wonder at what price, what is the indecent proposal where probity goes out the window?
I guess what feels different in this case, we've had our own cash for questions scandal, of
Correct.
course, but with lobbyists within our own parliament. But when you get an overseas interference, I think it feels a bit more sinister, doesn't it, Claire?
It certainly does, and the Qataris don't have the greatest reputation for human rights or LGBTQ rights, and it looks as though they're trying to clean up their image by offering this money out there and saying, look, we're actually
We're
quite
going to
nice
clean up our
people.
image by giving loads
Yeah,
of money to
Absolutely.
That's not going to work.
But
Well,
the
good
very
one, lads.
fact that they think they can do that shows you who you're dealing with. And I think if somebody comes to you and say, from that kind of nation that said, have a free holiday for €100,000, have some money, you've got to wonder what it is they want. But the questions that have been asked in the European Parliament are all about how good the Qataris are and how they're clearing up.
And let's not forget, prime ministers in this country get gifted free holidays all the time. And there's no such thing as a free lunch. Everything involves
Absolutely.
influence and favour.
But Claire, you said showing what you're dealing with about them, but also the mere fact that they think that they can get away with it also tells you who they think they're dealing with.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah, it works both ways on this. They think that these people are perhaps easier to buy off than others, and they have gone for certain parties. One of them is the Vice President of the European Parliament, who is also in the Greek Socialist Party. So I think they are deliberately picking certain people off. That
A socialist on the take. Wow.
What a shocker.
Yeah.
Your story of the day.
It is. I love it. I absolutely love this story.
Yeah, can we go to the Express? This is just squeezed at the top. They're leading on the terrible situation in Solihull, but just at the top, they're talking about parking charges on our high streets, and they've got this campaign to try and save the high street. Presumably something you can get behind.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because sometimes the parking situation, the cost of parking can be prohibitive, and we know that the high streets have had a very hard time, not even just through the pandemic, but even since global financial crisis. We've had more charity shops and more fast food shops, and people are sort of leaving the high town. So the idea that they re-look at trying to encourage people back into town, you know, and so I like this idea that you know they're looking at ending parking charges, or at least minimising the costs, so that you can bring your family and make a day of the time in the high street. So you park your car, you're there for 3 or 4 hours, you do a bit of shopping, you have a little bit of food, you have a little bit of entertainment, and you make it a day out to visit the town again.
You get me excited here, Chris, now. You talk about reinvigorating the high street. What I like about this story, Claire, is that it's Jacob Rees-Mogg was backing this, because this is basically ending the war on the motorist, helping out the beleaguered high street, which has to pay high business rates. It's on a level playing field with Amazon, but it's so common sense, it will never catch on, will it?
Well, can I just put a little plug in for my own local authority? Sevenoaks District Council do remove their parking charges on one weekend on the run-up to Christmas. We used to do too, but unfortunately, for local government, this is a big money drain, unfortunately. So you start losing that parking revenue, that starts affecting the services that you can offer. So whilst I support it, absolutely do, and I can understand why you need to bring
parking
people
revenue
back.
on a high street props up local services like bin collections and things.
Absolutely does.
Right.
And it does come to down something as simple as that. But also, in some areas, you have to look at putting parking restrictions in, because some people don't wish to pay for parking near stations. So they would use up the free parking. So I think there is a lot of balancing. So it's a very nice story, and I do support perhaps bringing down the charges. But I think for local authorities who are struggling right now, as everybody is, where does that money then get made up?
You're
Is
just
there going
about to
be
give us a Christmas gift there, Claire.
I'm sorry.
You turn into Scrooge.
No,
Thank you. If it has to be on parking, then so be it.
You could rethink it though. So, for example, if you showed that you spent £5 in a coffee shop, that would entitle you to free parking outside, or whatever it is. You know, so you could rethink ways of showing it. Yeah.
We've got 1 minute left, and I want to squeeze this story in. Speaking of squeezing things in, 7. A stray cat apparently is coming home from
Yeah.
Qatar
Yeah.
in the Daily Star. What's this?
Yeah, no, the England team. I forgot the two players. That I mean, I think it's a Calvin
Where
Phillips,
is
one
the
of the
star? Here
players.
we go.
Yeah, I got in too late to have a little read. But gosh, he's a right. Oh, Stones and
John Stones and Kyle Walker.
Way! Oh, check you out.
England football.
Yeah.
One fan here.
And I love
The whole game on Saturday night.
what they've got here. Kit's coming home. I don't know if you can see that. Kit's coming home.
Don't forget your kit.
That's really. So
That
that's.
looks a bit miserable. Though.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
But you know what they've called the cat? I think he looks a bit miserable. He's called Dave.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a rename the cat name to something a little bit more exciting than Dave.
no, I think it's a good cat name.
Yeah, but I wonder who's going to have him in the end. Because I mean, he can't be divided. It's only one cat. Yeah, between all the players, you can have him for a month. There you go.
Remember, who was that footballer that kicked their cat across the kitchen?
Oh no!
I don't.
It's Kurt Zuma. That's West Ham as well.
No,
That's my team. Let's stick to the good story, shall we?
Need to bring it to a downer. Look, we've got to leave it there. Chris Akabusi, Claire Pearsall, really enjoyed that pay-per-view. We've got some laughs in there. Thank you both very much. We'll see you again just after 7:30.